you have any questions, any problems of writing your paper?
It's not really for the written responses, but if we're doing a presentation, do we still have to turn in an outline?
Yes, if you can, the copy and outline. Okay. After that, at least if you have your outline, it's easy. Presentation.
Sure.
Any questions? In the front, please.
Thank you.
Good. So how is it? Is it easy? No? Is it easy? No? Today I'd like to go over briefly about the 12 condition of what we call the dependent origins. It's so important because these are the basic teaching of the Buddha. And later on, we don't have time, so we won't have time to come back. So it's today and Thursday too. It's so important, please pay attention. And this talk about what we call the birth and the reincarnations idea. You have the paper around, please? There was a paper. Okay. Please sign up to remember. Probably today and Thursday, and I talk a bit more because it's so important. I want to deliver and explain for you so that you understand. Otherwise, it's sometimes confusion. Alright. So it's so important. Now, last times when we start the class, we talked briefly about what we call first conditions. This one is here. It's so important that you can see. I have the laser pointer to see it. Here, last time we talked about ignorance, volitional activities, actually what we call dependent origination, or what we call Perkins condition. This talk about how we came about and where we head into. I think this is good. So, this Buddha explained right after his enlightenment, the second after his enlightenment, he recognizes, and that's why he provides this kind of teaching for us. I will explain briefly here. Alright, so what we call here ignorance here, original activities mean karma, between consciousness, my mother, six spheres of sense, contact, intention, craving, attachment, action, reward, and so forth. So the first two are what belong to the past, from 3 down to number 10 is considered the present, and the last two are considered as the future. This is a cycle of rebirth. The number, please.
31. 31.
Okay, so here. Here, what you call the cycle of rebirth. According to Buddha here. You see that? Start with ignorance. And that's why we create some kind of karma. And this is information of the form of consciousness and so forth. We spend people step by step for you to understand. So now here ignorance. Ignorance is mental blindness or unknown, and function is confused, and interpretation is considered the true nature of object. So basically, in Buddhism, ignorance is the one that creates all kind of problems. That's why we come to school, to learn. to get more knowledge, right? Otherwise, we would not be here. So that's why in Buddhism, the Buddha starts with ignorance, that we don't know. This is like a blind or blind man going the path, and ignorance the true self and so forth. And this is the cultural, the innate ignorance and so forth, and we explain later on, because it relates to the second noble truth of the three, what we call the three poisons: ignorance, hatred, and craving. We will go over that. And from ignorance, you can look up here. It comes with the karma. Last time we talked about karma, right? Look at the karma, right? When you push it, you don't know, right? And it falls on you. That's what karma. And the karmic formation, if you have if you do things based on hatred, it comes back to you, or greed and so forth. Delusion, that's ignorance. And in the opposite way, you may create good karma with non-greed, non-hatred. We discussed further, especially in the second noble truth. We know, right? Karma is my map. It's verbal action, body action, and depend upon your mind. We know that. But when you're driving the car on the road, and suddenly the deer jump out, who karma is that? The deer. Have you ever hit any animals on the road before? What do you get?
Cat.
Cat?
Those are right between the two axles of the car, I can tell you.
Anyone?
Cat and possum.
You know, one day when I was in Indiana on the road to the school, somehow it's at night, a big deer is stood in the middle of two sides. I have to swing on my car, otherwise I hit that. So this is so whole karma when they jump out in front of our car. So karma is that? Huh? Depend. Do we have karma to kill it? Do we have that karma? What do you think? Basically, some kind of karma involved, but intention is so important. We don't have intention to kill them, but probably that's the end of their life, so that's why they jump out. So unless you have intention, right, you may create serious karma, right? When you go to court, right, the judge asks you, whichever karma, whichever intention you have, right? So that's why it's so important we know that. And because karma is ignorance here, evil actions are conditioned by two causes. Karma, some of you wrote, right, the good karma and bad karma, so we know that. I want to go briefly. So again, where's karma stored after we done with our life? Where is that? In Buddhism, in the form of what we call consciousness. That's why last time I explained to you that before we pass away, this energy, the whole kind of good and bad karma, would be in the form of what we call consciousness, and it will go to the next life in the form of energy. I explained to you some type of consciousness here, you can understand deeply. Here. And this is kind of karma, right after we pass away, or even now, right? We do all kind of karma. After we pass away, this karma will come with us. Okay, let me skip this one. Here, the thing, the birth link, that's mean consciousness here, in the form of energy, in the form of consciousness. Here. This is the first time in this view. The last consciousness that leaves our body is the eight consciousness. And the first consciousness that enters the body is the eight consciousness too. And in the form of what? Feathers. That's what when we form this body. This is okay here. I think I better explain to you this way. Okay, here. Now, it is easy to understand. You see the side, our eyes, see the side, right? Our ear, here, the sound, we have touch and so forth. These are what we call the five sense, right? For our body, right? When we see the sky, what do we see? When we see an object, what do? We analyze, right, whether it's beautiful, or ugly, or so forth, right? And when we hear the sound, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, hot, and so forth, we register. This. Let's explain to you here. It's like a house. The house has a window and a door. Okay, can you see? Can you see? Okay. Now, this is simple explanation for you to understand. Our five sense organs is like a window and the door of our body, of our life, is that right? When we open our eyes, we see object, right? And what we call the eye is what? The window of the soul, right? And but when, let's say, when we see an object, let's say this bottle, right? We analyze, oh, this water bottle is green and so forth, right? But so that's why the eyes, okay, the eyes see the object, and the object, and what happens is it discriminates. It's analyzed whether it's good object, bad object, and so forth. What they call the eye's consciousness. The eye consciousness that analyze this is the water bottle, this is the green color, and so forth. And in hearing too, when you listen to some sound, whether someone praise you or scold you and so forth, you analyze it. So the eyes is the nose, tongue, and so forth. It's like when you open the window, you see outside there. Well, let's say when you close, you can see, but when we pull up the curtain, we see something there. Make sense? So basically, the eyes, ear, the nose, the tongue, the body is like the window of our body and mind. You understand that? We open up, we see, we test, we recognize, so forth. What we call it, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and so forth. Make sense? But actually, the number 6 consciousness is like the owner of the house. Let's say we're here in this room. We close everything, right? We could not see anything. But when we open the door, oh, we see the wall out there. When we pull up the curtain, we see the building there. So the owner of the house is the 6 consciousness. So the 5 sense is like the window is only the window of the house only. And when you have finished, okay. You understand that? So what happened? Like your computer, when you see an object, it's just consciousness. The function is to analyze things, good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, to discriminate things. And let's say if it's pleasant, okay, let's say if it's a beautiful object, the 7 consciousness is the one that identifies ourselves as an I. Ego, this me. Oh, I like this laptop. This is my laptop, and so forth. So whatever like or dislike, pleasant or unpleasant, it will store in what they call the A consciousness. So there is a storehouse. Your number, please.
I think it's 19.
18.
19.
How you feel?
I'm much better, thank you. Thank you for accepting my doctor's note.
Alright. Yeah, just let me know if you're sick, if you have any problem, let me know, we can work out. Anyway, so you understand that, like your computer, when you search on the internet, right, you see with your eyes, right? Like you search any website, right, whether it's good or bad. So some information you capture there, you like that information, or you say, oh, this information they want to, I like to keep in my store, in my C drive, in my computer. So the number 8 consciousness is a storehouse. You store everything, you store every information that you have seen the past, limitless past life, not one lifetime. That's why, wherever you go, let's say you're born here and you get used up Vidano, right? When you go to Asia, when you go to somewhere else around the world, you look for Vidano because you store that information in your consciousness. Make sense? They clear? Right, that's why. Now let me go back here. Go back this here. That's why. This one here, the num5, the five sense is like the doors. That means when we see things, we attach to them. And this is number 6, this monitoring consciousness, that's this number 6 consciousness. It's analyzes, it's like, oh, this is the red, the water, and number 7 is ego center, this is me. This information is me. This laptop is me, so I can set this one, whether it's like this light. You get the idea? That's why when you love someone, you store here, information here, in a conscious. So what happens when you dislike, when you don't like someone? Do you store information? You do. Whether you like a dislike, whether pleasant, if it's imprinted in your mind, as much as imprinted in your mind, you store here. That's why all kind of information, that's here. It's in the past, we can say limited past life. That's why, sometimes in Buddhist view, let's say when we pass away and we go to the next life, all information here, if we have some kind of special relationship with someone else, we see them, what we call the first impression, you know what? Because somehow even they change their forms already, but still, consciously, intuitively, we still have that connection with them, and vice versa. When you see someone, if you have some kind of, that aversion with them in the past, on the first instant, you want to stay away from them. You understand that? But if you walk, let's say, if you walk to Houston, downtown Houston, and you don't pay attention about this, they won't imprint in your eye consciousness. It makes sense now? So again, so the five sense is like the windows and the door of the house. And sixth consciousness is that's the one who analyzes whether it's good or bad. The number 7 is the one that pick up, oh, this is mine. So you pick up and store here and compare and contrast with the external conditions. It makes sense? You follow me? Okay, so that's not what this explanation is about. Okay, this is about six consciousness is control all of the sense, and when we get information, we store here. What we call the storage consciousness. Okay, that's why when we have the consciousness here, here we remember we talked about last time, right? E equal mc squared, right? Energy never lost. It transforms from one form to others. That's why when we pass away, this kind of karma is in the form of consciousness that we store in what we call the alaya or the a consciousness in the form of energy. Makes sense? And when we enter the wombs of the mothers, we have what we call the mother and the mind. The mind is, you can say, the brain or the mentality, or matter is the body, physical body. And when we have the physical body, mind and matter, with element. For element, this is the water, the air, the heat, and the wind. Can skip it. You see the consciousness? It has here the matter here, the heart, the eyes, the ear, the nose, and so forth. The feeling, the mind, formation, perception. You follow that? Okay. Again, to descend to. All right, now the mind, matter, and great existence space. Existence space is the five senses: the eyes, ears, the nose, the tongue, and the mind here. And this one here, in the form, and body and mind, in the form of the awareness. It's logic. You follow that? Okay. And this here, the system here, the eye space, and so forth, the mind space here. And when we have the system, we have in contact with what we see, Right? Our eyes see an object, our body will touch with an object. It's here. Right? The contact. When we have the contact, what do you do? Here, we see. The eyes see. Oh, what is the precious jewels? I'm going to get rich. I'm going to be rich. And the feeling. When we have contact, we have the feeling. Right? Like when you consume a food, some kind of food, right? Whether it's pizza, ice cream, and so forth, you put inside your mouth and have that kind of feeling. Whether it's good feeling, bad feeling, right? Feeling born from the eyes, feeling born from the ear. If someone praise you, you're so beautiful and so forth, we're so happy. But if they turn us down, we feel sad. The know is from body too. Okay, that's a sensation here, right? And this is the feeling born from eyes, from ear contact. And now here we have pleasurable, painful, and neutral feeling. What's been pleasure? When we enjoy our food, when we enjoy conversation. And the painful, when someone scolds us, when we buy hot TV, right? And neutral, when? When we have the neutral feeling. When? What do you think? When nothing? Huh? We're sleeping. You can say that. Yeah? When? When we have neutral feeling. When? You have idea? We don't pay attention much. Right? Okay, so when they pass by these cups and this water bottle, I don't pay attention. I don't have much feeling. Right? But if I pay attention, I may enjoy or may dislike it. Okay? And now, here. Now, from the feeling, sensation, it great craving. Let's say, oh, I like hamburgers, right? A pizza, ice cream, whichever, or phao, whichever food. I like to have more. That's mean cravings, right? Usually we don't stop when we have that pleasant feeling with certain things, with certain food, with certain people. We want to have more to satisfy ourselves. Makes sense? That's what craving is for. And this one here, the craving, the sixth sense, okay, the visible object, the sound object, the smell, the taste, tangible, mental object, and so forth. Right? That's why we want. That's why when we have good feeling of something, the food, or with people, the sight, the sound, and so forth, we want to have more. When we want to have more, what happens? What happens after we want to have more? What do you think? When you have, let's say, when you engage in any kind of relationship, so most of you here, right? Right? And you have that good feeling with your boyfriend's girlfriend, what happens next? You have some form of what? Attachment. Is that right? That's why you like to stay around with your guy for a while, or for the rest of your life, whichever way. You see, that's why it's lead to what we call attachment. Can you see like this eyes here? Why is 10? You like chocolate cake, right? And here, see, look more. Clean into the logic, right? Okay, which craving the right step good from I guess from the sixth sense organs too, and craving again, craving for sensual pleasure. Everyone wants like to be happy, like to enjoy life and so forth. But we crave for existence. That means we want to live forever. We don't want to be sick. We don't want to pass away. Right? We don't want to have anything happen to us. Right? Praying for non-existence. We enjoy thinking about after we pass, when we like to live forever. That's what they feel here. And that's one. Craving the right cleaning sins, after the sin, we want to keep it. We don't want to release. A strong form of craving at you. We want to be champion forever. We want to be present and so forth. This here, what cleansing? Clean to the view, clean to the essential pleasure, clean to the rules of observance, clean to doctrine, self, and so forth. Here, sensual pleasure, This is the intense craving. Anyone of you watch Super Bowl? All of you, most of you, you enjoy. Where will be the next one? Next year? Where is that? You guys know that? Where? I heard that it's expensive ticket, right? Did anyone of you get to the stadium? No? Expensive, right? Anyways, get the answer. Okay, here. Here, depending on clinical rights, becoming attachment, and after that, what we call becoming. Becoming, this is number 10 in the Helping condition. Birth, aging. So that's the cycle of the birth. Now, so let me give you one more time, okay? So attachment. When you attach to each other, you want to get married, right? Right? Becoming a family, and of course, when you have family, you produce the children, and that's a cycle. Right? That's one cycle of life. That's one here. So becoming a four. Okay, that's a birth here. That's a birth, aging, and death here. Again, that's a cycle. Does it make sense now? That's what in Buddhist view. These are the mark or the charge. That's where we come from, where we head into. According to Buddhist view, according to Buddha view. It makes sense now? It's logical. Right. Now, and that's why here, be careful about information you store here. You store in a consciousness. Let's say, in Buddhist view, they give the children, right? When they're young, they're so young, they're too young, but they know how to solve or some kind of certificate math problems. Probably they were a genius, they were a professor in the past life. Even some of them could play piano well, right? Probably they store this information already. Whichever occupation, whichever information that you have done, you have finished in the past, it's still there. It's still in your consciousness. That's why most of us, or all of us, have the tendency to be engineer, doctor, and so forth, right? Because we have viewed all kind of information, we have saved all kind of information here in the consciousness. And this is go again and again in our what we call cycle of rebirth here. Okay. And that is what birth lead to, again, that's the cycle. And the past here, the past is based on ignorance and karma, and present based on conscious mind, and so forth. And this is the future. See, that's the whole cycle of rebirth in Buddhist view, what we call the 12 clean condition. That's why the Buddha said that if we cut one of them, we will break the chain of dependent origin, and we will be free. Otherwise, it's not easy. In Buddhism, it's this one here, attachment, is a big deal. Why? Why is it a big deal? Like I told you, we depend on cigarette. We depend on coffee. We could not wake up. We could not go a day without coffee, right? Some of you, I know one of you get stuck with coffee here. Okay, so what do you feel? That's why we're not free. Make sense? We're not free with coffee. But when we were young, we would not have that kind of inclination and that attachment yet. Let's say if you go to somewhere else without coffee, can you survive? Yeah, you can. Yeah. Right. How about internet? What do you think? Is it a big deal? It's a big deal. For email? Even me too. Every day you have to check email. Of course I'm teaching online, I have to check email at least a few hours per day to see what's happened to my students. I have to respond to them. But this is become this some form of attachment, some form of what we call habitual karma that we attach with. That's why it's every summer I organize for the children to have summer camp. They go to my place in Indiana. We don't have any internet, and some of them they freak out too. When you internet, they get used of that already. So sometimes we need to reverse our habitual patterns so that we know, okay, the pen, the laptop, and so forth. This is the means for us to live, the means for us to work. It's not the thing that we have to live with them. That's why attachment tires down. If we know, we can be free of other things. That's why I told you, as a monk, yes, I have this kind of things, but it's for teaching only. It's for education only. So it depends how you use them. Make sense? Alright, so that's the thing I want to discuss briefly about this. Alright, let's go back to the lesson today. This is very important. This related to this one too. That's what we call the for number 2, right? Let's go with number 1. The first number 2 describe the ultimate question. Stephanie? You want to say something about what's the ultimate question of life?
I didn't get that. I just wrote about the suffering.
Okay, you go ahead.
The 3 aspects of suffering, there is suffering or dukkha. Dukkha should be understood and dukkha has been understood. And I also thought the causes of suffering.
But another quote is for the second one. That's okay. About Tiffany, you have here? Huh? Okay, can you explain about physical suffering?
Physical, like if you're sick or just injury, anything that's outside of the body.
Okay.
And then mental emotions, sad.
Okay, what, that's all?
And then the first thing, the truth, I think, is all sufferings are inevitable, so you can't escape it. So happiness is temporary compared to your suffering.
Alright, you here? Michelle, you here? Okay, so lesson 1, number 1, 2, 3. This is late. One, number 2. Francis, are you here? Can you explain what's your view about the challenge of material, physical, spiritual, and spiritual life? What's the challenge?
My views, right?
Yeah, your views, yeah.
That's what I did. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah.
I wrote a whole thing, but I don't know how I
That's
can.
okay. Go ahead. Try to explain. Don't read the paper. Try to explain. Go ahead. If you can. Yeah. So what's your view?
Well, my views were quite different before I started taking this class about material and physical things that I want versus what I truly need.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, go ahead.
So now I was always thinking about, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm going to graduate in 2 years. I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to buy a new this and this and that. And now, like, my truck is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's old, but it's perfectly fine. Or purses. What purse do I want? What purse do I really need? Not really. I don't need anything. I have it all. But it's quite difficult to let go of the things. I'm very clingy with my stuff that I really like. But now I look at things quite different. That's the material aspect of it. The spiritual, I didn't know that I was not spiritual. Maybe not enough, but not at all. I'm like totally non-spiritual. And now I'm like, okay, what is it like to live a spiritual life or somehow have something in your life? And I think it's part of doing a good deed to someone. I usually do good deeds towards animals. Maybe not people as much because they'll be okay. They have minds and they can take care of themselves. But when it comes to animals, I'm quite like, no, like I'll go out of my way to help animals. I get in trouble, sorry.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay.
But that's my spiritual side, like doing good deeds to animals.
Thank you. You want to say something?
I guess just to like follow up, I guess like I was reading on the book too. Material desire kind of like ruins, I guess, your physical, psychological, and spiritual life. Like it gets in the way of what basically it means to be human. You really forget that you're alive and you're here in this day and age, and like everybody else is alive with you, just because you're so desired on something that really does not matter whatsoever, because everybody's gonna die eventually. So like, why do you even care? And I feel like, especially in the Western world, that's why it's so weird. I'm like, why is it that on our side of the globe we think like this? If anything, I feel like more than on, I guess, the other side. I feel like it's like deliberately placed on us for some reason. Like, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
All right. Yeah. So depend. If you look at the life in the whole expressful, right? You can recognize. Let's move on to number 3 and other people will go around here. Number 3, Joseph's. You happy? Oh, can you say something? What's the view about the physical and material?
I really didn't get this question because when I was reading the material, it was more, I guess the challenge is not getting into the desire. So the desires of the I think it's like, we're talking about thirst, cravings, sexual pleasures and stuff like that. Like I really didn't understand like.
Yeah, this one is a challenge, right? Craving and attachment.
Oh, okay, so I was kind of there.
Yeah.
So I took it more like not challenge it, well, the challenges were not giving into the desires of the world.
Let's see. Okay. So depend on your view, depend on your culture, educational background, and so forth, right? You can see, you can view lives in different ways, right? If you live in a family that have gone through all kind of hardship, you recognize up and down life, right? If you grow up in the wealthy families, you may not recognize much things out there, right? So it will depend on how much experience life you encounter, and depend how much knowledge you learn from life too. So whether you focus your life on material, or you physical or spiritual, depend on your outlook of life. So in Buddhist view, yeah, you mentioned one thing is very important. When we talk about this, want and needs, that's quite different. Let me go back here. Here, like, are you happy in life? Or so again, everyone, even animals, even the pets, right? The dog and the cat want to be happy, want to enjoy life. So what kind of happiness that we want to have? What do you think? How could you define happiness? Now remember, before I go to what we call the Four Truths of the Buddha, right, we want to talk briefly about the difference between sufferings and happiness. Is that right? Right. Suffering and happiness is like two sides of the coins. So how could we define? Okay, we know this the suffering, right? The suffering of like she mentioned, right? The physical suffering, the mental suffering. But when happiness, again, when we fulfill ourselves, when we enjoy our life, when we enjoy our food and so forth, when we be more successful and so forth. Is that right? That's kind of happiness that we may have. What do you think?
I think happiness is a choice.
Huh?
I think happiness is a choice.
The choice?
Yeah.
How come that happiness is a choice?
Because you, whether you want to feel that way or not, have control over your reaction to every action around you, and it's not easy to say or do. I'm definitely not perfect at it, but there's you have a choice in your happiness.
Yes?
I think I agree, and I think if you're mindful enough to understand that you're unhappy, you should be mindful enough to understand that you want to be happy and understand how to be happy.
Any one example? Happiness is a choice. Yes?
I think I actually heard this as a quote from like the Dalai Lama or something.
Okay.
It's probably not a direct quote, but for example, getting stuck in traffic, you could choose to get really angry and frustrated, or you could just enjoy the fact that you're sitting there and it's peaceful. You might be listening to some really good music.
That's important. Yeah, that's actually, again, that's a choice from where? From your mentality, from your mind. That depends on state of mind, right? Whether you, let's say, whether you use iPad or laptop, Mac or PC, that's your choice. You see how you like, and sometimes, this is the thing that brings us the suffering. The mind brings the suffering. The mind brings the happiness. This everything depends on your state of mind. If you visit your friends and somehow they give you some kind of strange food, right? That you may not taste before, that you may have tasted before, but you just enjoy that moment. The moment that they offer the food for you, whether it's I don't know what kind of food, but still, if you accept that, it's more enjoyable than oh no, I don't like it, or even probably sometimes because politeness, right? You will swallow, but you somehow you may not like to have second times, right? Anyway, so you can upon your state of mind that could define happiness, right? And this is what here. Happiness of parents' love, friendship, of having healthy body, and so forth. Now again, in Buddhist view, everything come and go. Everything is impermanent. If you enjoy some type of food, you couldn't enjoy more and forever. I remember that when I was young, my mom used to buy for me mangoes, and whenever she went out of town, she brought back mango or some kind of special food to satisfy we say that the desire or sensation. But we never satisfied with any kind of sensation, any kind of feeling. It's just temporary. It's alright whether it's the sensation you have with your friends, with your food, whichever. It's just temporary. It's impermanent. It's come and go. But if you are attached, that's what here. The Buddha provides the first sermon. The first teaching is the most important teaching for after his enlightenment. That's why the Four Noble Truths is the most important one. That's what they and this and Thursday. Please pay attention. Besides that 13th tradition. So he's expound. He talked about the truth of suffering. Now let me explain to you what's the truth then. What's the truth? How can you define the truth? How can you define it? What's the truth? Of course, all opposites with truth is false. We don't talk about the false. Forget that. What we talk? How could you define the truth first? What's the truth? Reality. What else? What else? Fact. Yes. What else? In Buddhist view, if it's true, it should be true since the past up to the present and until the future. Now here, when we talk about the true suffering, right? We just mentioned about the physical suffering, right? Physical, mental suffering. How about people in the past? Have they had that kind of suffering? Now? We now? How about future? Yes. Same. That's what the Buddha said. This is true. But of course, in Buddhism we call conversion conventional truth, but it's still the truth is because this has happened in the past, it's happened now, it's going to be happen in the future too. That's what we call the truth. And the truth of suffering, the core suffering, and suffering, and so forth. Let me ask you, how many of you have learned this before? Or know this before you came to the class? How many of you?
We read it in the book before today.
Not before this class. You did? No? You did? Oh, you have some idea, right? But insofar, right, this is not hard to understand, right? Not before. Okay, now. Here, that's what the Four Noble Truths, suffering, co-suffering, and the suffering path to cessation of suffering. Let me tell you this. Who are in medical major, you, or you be doctor, nurse?
Dietitian.
Oh, okay. You doctor? What will you? You specialize in field?
Psychiatry. Psychiatry.
Okay, good. Now, let's say if have you walked in any hospital before? How about you? Okay. Let's hospice. Okay. Let's say just imagine that you're a doctor, right? When the patient come to see you, what's the first thing you to say to them? Huh?
Hi.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Here.
How do you feel?
Yeah. It's suffering. Is that right? What's wrong with? We don't say what's wrong with you. Okay. What kind of illness you have, and so what kind of symptom, what kind of things you endure now, right? With headache and so forth. That's suffering. That's all right. And the next step, what do you tell them? Let's say if they have stomach problems, what should you tell them? What do you eat? Yeah. Have you consumed spoiled food or wrong food or poisonous food and so forth? This is cold suffering. Is that right? And if you stop here, they would not pay you a dime. That's all right. But if you say it's further, okay. If you have stomach problem, don't worry. Trust me. I will give you some kind of medicine here, right? I give you prescription and go to CVS or Walgreens to buy food, to buy the medicine. To buy medicine here. If they trust you, what happens? If they don't trust you, would they throw away the prescription? But I don't think so, right? They pay money for seeing you. So if they trust you, yes, they buy medicine. And what happens if they don't take by themselves? Would you force them? No, they had to take by themselves. Is that right? You know, it's just not funny, but you know, some Vietnamese people, when the doctor prescribes them, let's say, take 2 pills per day, some of them take 4 pills. So others take more, they could be, they get better quicker, but otherwise it's worse. So anyway, so if that's why, that's the Buddha, exactly this is the way the Buddha prescribed. He indicate, he point out the suffering we have here. Physical, mental suffering, we talk later on, and he will explain what the cause of suffering. And if we start up, many people is when they come across to Buddhism, when they learn Buddhism, and especially when they come across to this word suffering, then thought that Buddhism is so pessimistic. And then it's suffering. And that's not the case. The Buddha point out problems to show us problems. And he said, yes, another side of suffering is happiness. It depends on the state of mind. And if you trust me, follow that path to transform the suffering. Like if the patient trusts a doctor, they will take the medicine. This is logic, right? So that's what the first lesson, the first teaching ever he provided for his the symptom, the nature of suffering. To live is to suffer, is that right? It's just normal. There's normal concept of life, going suffering, it can be designed and so forth. Something can be overcome and so forth. Let me start from here. Let me go back to the next one. Let's go. Let's see. Here we have what we call economic suffering, physical suffering, we sick, right? Economic suffering, that's when we poor, we're homeless and so forth. Spiritual suffering, That's when you have spiritual suffering. Sometimes you don't believe anything, right? You don't trust anything. That's right. Let me go down more. And the suffering may come because of man-made or nature suffering, right? It's man-made. Hurricane, earthquake, disease, famine, and so. Let me ask you, who make the nature suffering? Who make it? In other tradition, right? In Christian tradition and so forth, is God make nature disaster and so forth, right? But in Buddhism, what do you think? Who make nature suffering? Karma. Okay. What else? That's pretty good. In one particular sutra, the Buddha said that because of collective karma. Remember I told you about individual karma and collective karmas? Individual karma that we have that supportive karma and so forth. When we live together, when you come to this room, right, like you student, you come to this room, you share some kind of karma, we call collective karma. And let's say if we have good karma, let's say, let me put this way, if you're generous, you would like to hang around with some generous people. For instance, you would not like to hang around with some stingy people. Do you understand that? This is what they call the like attached like. Makes sense? That's what here. Again, the Buddha said, if we have certain people have some kind of heavy karma, that's where we have to pay for. Of course, nowadays we know, right? Nature disaster may come from man-made too, and global warming. You know, in my state, in Indiana, when they first came, especially in the winter, sometimes the snow came up to the knees. But now it's pretty rare for us to have the snow in Indiana. It's global warming. Within 15 years only. The flood, the tsunami, and so forth. Most of the time, this is man-made too. And yes, we have here. You know the story of this? Anyone of you know the story of this? You may not know. You don't know. So this is a story. There's a lady. She has a young boy. So somehow her son passed away. So she carried his corpse around and asked for help for bring back his life. So no one could help her out, and someone suggested her to bring that child to see the Buddha. What did the Buddha say? Look at here. The Buddha said, okay, if you want me to bring back your son's life, just go to the house, to the house. Again, the price, most are special sit in India, but go to the house that never has any person that passed away. Crucified. Every one of us have that kind of experience in our family members, our relatives, our friends, so forth. That's life. So when she came back, she said, I cannot fight. The Buddha said, that's the nature of life. And she recognized us. She recognized and she not attached to anyone. This is all the story. Now here. Okay. Being separate from the loved one, be together with the one you don't like. This is another one. Being separate from loved one, right? When you served in the army, you left your children.
Lots of times.
All times. At that time, you still give contact with them.
Sometimes. And sometimes my husband got deployed, and then I could talk to him for like a month at a time. Nowadays,
it is, of course, if you use the technology, right? This is convenient. You can use Skype, right? FaceTime and so forth. You see other people somewhere else around the world. But before, in my generation, we didn't have that chance. We are so blessed. But be careful. Don't attach to them. Alright. Being separate from the people we like to love or love, especially I have seen many people at the funeral service. Some of them they say, well, I'm sorry, if I have a chance. You understand that? You understand what I'm talking about? right? Sometimes when we live together, sometimes we raise some kind of conflict, but when that person left us or live forever, we miss them. And then we regret things that we have said, have done today. How we begin together with people, this like enemies. Our enemies, the one who you may not like, but they see you every day. Especially at work, probably not at school much, right? Right. At work, what happened? Who are working here? Okay, you're working, right? So yeah, so how will you deal with these people? The people that you don't like, but you see them every day. What do you do? Yes?
And just like, as one of my mentors teach me that you have nothing nice to say it out. So this one.
What's that?
She said that if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. So I normally just keep it to myself and just let all hey, what's up?
And what happened? If they, especially supervisor, manager, and co-worker, they push to you too much.
Still be nice to them, feel more kind.
Yeah, but what happened?
I
They don't
don't do
give
that,
up.
but.
That's how you want, right?
I think that for me, I just acknowledge that their actions, ultimately, I can choose whether they affect me or not. And I either let it bother me, or I choose to ignore it, or I simply walk away. But ultimately, I don't want their life and the choices that they're making to affect me and what I'm doing, or derail me from my whole day, or week, or whatever, you know.
What happens if you deal with people who have tendency that want to manipulate others? Is that right? You deal with all kind of people like this, right? So again, that's their problems. If you know how to control your mentality, like you say, right? You are in control. No matter what they say, no matter what they do. Of course, it affects your job or so forth, you may discuss with your supervisor, the one who above you, but depend on your mentality. If you allow them to control you or not, that's your choice. Is that right? That's why. One meditation, later on, when we talk about this, especially this Thursday, please don't miss us. It's so important that we have this kind of what we call mind training, so that we can be calm and know how to deal with situations. All right. So again, not getting what we want, one verse need, right? It's so important here. Okay. Now let me move here. This is here. Can you see? Birth, Asian death, so this is the physical one, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, despair, and so forth. This is a variety of suffering here. So please remember, as a doctor, even as a patient, we need to know our symptom, our problem, in order to solve it. If we run away, it's still there. Like during the day, you deal with all kinds of things, of problems. Yes, at night you go back and watch some kind of funny story, funny movies, or any romantic movie and so forth. Then tomorrow, you still have to face that again. Because this problem is still there. That's why it's better to face. Of course, if you have ability to face, and of course, another one suffering by suffering, what's mean? Then homeless people. Have you seen them, right? When it's raining, especially here it's better, but in New York, right? We heard that many of them pass away when they stay outdoors too long, right? Suffering by chance, right? Our physical body, we're getting older and so forth, and suffering because deterioration, our body, our cars, our laptop, whichever. That's it there. Okay. Now the next one, let me go back to number 2. Let's go back here. Number 2. Number 4. Sarah, yes, you want to say something about? Is that?
Number 4.
I hear. Okay. Yeah.
Describe
Okay. Yes. On childhood, human mentality. Yes.
Yeah, well, this was talking about the second noble truth, where Buddha was trying to figure out, like you said, what the cause of suffering was. And after he reflected on that, he realized that it was because of desire, which can mean anything, right? It can mean the desire for food, it can mean the desire to be wealthy, it can mean the desire to have power or be in control, or any sort of physical human body cravings, or anything that we want.
Yeah.
Which then he realized that if people would just realize, which of course it comes from the ignorance,
Okay.
that because they have ignorance, they are trying to constantly satisfy these cravings. But you really can't satisfy those cravings. So you just keep wanting more and more and more and more. And so from that, he saw that that's where all of the world's problems really stemmed from, was from cravings and our desires for different things.
For New Year, do you have New Year resolution? No. Is that shut up desire, attachment? What do you think? Do you set your goal or go to school? What's the difference between the goal and the desire? What's the difference of craving? What's the difference? Is there any problem to set the goal for you to go to finish? Let's say you want to finish up your business degree or whatever. Is that different from craving?
I mean, we've been talking about craving as like in a bad sense. Could craving be a good sense too?
What do you think? Is it good too?
I think so, because, I mean, if we're speaking spiritual, I mean, you crave, you know, the understanding. So, because if I set my goal to finish school, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I mean, if I lose sense within, like if I'm going to go to school, I'm not going to do anything else is not going to matter, then I can look at it as a bad thing.
Here. Again, yes?
I think craving can also have a positive connotation, kind of like what you're trying to say, because it kind of stems from desire. And if you're setting your goal is to go to school, you want to have a craving to finish your degree, you want to have that desire, that drive. But it can also be negative.
What happens if you have a drive, if you have, let's say, the urge to be doctor, to have patients, have people? Is that bad desire? Is that bad? No. So that's why many people, they don't understand Buddhism. They say, oh, in Buddhism, if you're Buddhist, you cannot have any desire. That's a different story. Yeah. Now, we have, later on in the, what they call the dry effort, we talk about. But then let me come back. What's the difference between having a goal and craving? Yes?
I think a goal is like seeking like growth or like knowledge or truth and something that you can attain higher than yourself, versus a craving is something that you're trying to feed, like this desire that you want.
Let me give you one example. You drive your car from down to the school. The house is destination, right? The house is the departure place, right? Mm-hmm. And the school is the goal, the arrival. But while you're driving and you encounter traffic, like you just mentioned, it's a state of mind. If you set up your goal and you just go there, just move. Just go along the flow. Go with your karma. Just go with your abilities. Make sense? You're more enjoyable. Instead of why you driving, oh I have to go to school, it's too late, it's late for my class now. That's a short of craving. That's burn you down. That stress yourself. Make sense now? Like why you driving the car? Okay, yeah, enjoy the driving. Yes.
Another example that I read about like craving versus, because it also talks about attachment, and that whenever you become like obsessed about something, that is really how they try and describe a craving, like you feel like you can't do without it. And then they talk about people like, very common obviously here in America, that we don't eat because we have to. We eat because we want to.
Yes.
And that is a craving.
That's
That whenever you overindulge, we don't need to eat 3 and 4 times a day.
Depend upon your health, depend upon your
Well,
needs.
sure, but I mean, big full meals, these full huge meals that people eat 3 and 4 times a day. You know, a full breakfast, a full lunch, a full dinner, with dessert. You know, that's not needed.
Yes. So depend. That's why we can. Sorry to bring up, right? If you get stuck with something, right, with a hot chili, or coffee, or phở, and so forth, that's what hang down here. Now let me show you this here again. This is what they call the poisons. Ignorance, we talk about ignorance, right? And anger, and actually, you know, what's this year? What's the year of rooster? Rooster represent attachment or desire, craving. You see how the rooster, how the chicken go around, even though it's too full and still go around too to pick up the food and so forth, right? So again, it is so practical. When you drive the car from your house to the school, you drive, you know the destination you want to go to get there. But enjoy your driving instead of pounding your wheel and so forth. You understand that? Especially when you encounter traffic light and so forth. Because that's what difference there. When you go to school, yes, you set your goal to be doctor, to be engineer. That's okay. Try your best. And especially I told many students, most of the time I told the students that what happens when you take a test? We talk about that, right? Test, what the test stress, right? When you walk into the room, take a test. What's the difference between having the goal and craving for an A? Is that right? Is it different? That's why you have stress. Stress comes from you expect. Yeah, what you call expectation here. You expect yourself to have an A whichever. And what happened when the teacher gives you back the test and you have a B or C, you frustrate, you depressed. You see that? So you just say, okay, go to class, prepare for the test, and try my best, that's all. Whichever outcome, I can accept that. You see the difference? We set the goal, but to go there in a comfortable, in an enjoyable way, and that's why we can transform that type of mentality and suffering there, mental suffering there. Let's see, how about number 4, 5? Oh, Sam? Oh, Steve, you want to say something about this?
The spiritual way.
But can you say anything that's related to your life or whichever? What do you think? You feel that difference with that recognition, right? Right, the goal, the craving, and the expectation, right? Okay, how about what is this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You want to say something?
So from what I saw, like suffering is not only like he described the cause of suffering, but also like how suffering affects things, and there were 4 of these things, kind of like the 4 noble truths. From what I don't remember what they were exactly, but they were all kind of like things pertaining to suffering, like cause, effects, and so on and so forth.
again, that's your choice. That's our choice. Whether we enjoy life or whether we endure suffering, especially in our mind, right? When we deal with mentality, our mentality, this is our choice. Let's move on to Juan. You want to say anything about attachment? What do you think?
I read that attachment is the root of suffering, so attachment causes suffering. And going off what you said about like attachment isn't like you could be attached to things because you said in Western culture they believe like, oh, to be a Buddhist you have to let go of everything, you can't be attached to anything, like, you go live in the mountains by yourself. But it's not about that, it's that like don't have a dependency on something, like that's what attachment means. Like don't be dependent on it, because when you depend on something or like you crave something and you can't have it, that's what causes suffering, because like you feel bad because you can't have it.
Well, let's say, okay, we talk like I want to say. Let's move on, let's see. You want to say something more? You want to say something more? About attachment? Yeah.
Rather than avoiding attachment, it says that you should seek non-attachment, where you see everything is connected. Like everything in the universe is connected together. And in order to have attachment, there must be someone who wants something else. Like there must be two separate things. And if everything's connected, then there's no desire to want anything else.
So be careful, that's all, because like you mentioned, right? We have, we set the goal to become a doctor, to have people, to have sick people, right? We have to go to the pharmacist or whichever position, profession we want to be, so that we can help society. That's the goal. That's a good goal, right? Good desire. It's different from the obsession. That's something you mentioned, right? Tiffany, you want to say something? Tiffany, or is Tiffany here? Oh, you want to say something? I'm sorry. Have people?
Right here.
Oh, okay. You done? Everyone of you? Please. I will scan it and pause on the blackboard, you know, right? If you forget the number, this is so important. All right, man, please. Okay. For a few minutes, then we show you. Okay, so we know, right? Yeah. Later on, the same is related to ignore. We just mentioned recently that related to the 12 claims conditions there. This is the thing I want to say here. Okay, this quality and design, same. For good experience, for possession. You want to, what's the worst that needs? You need the car, it's different. You want to have the car, and so forth. Here. Right. A big one. And rich. Right. That's good for two, right? This is one here. Okay, so I think this Thursday we talk more about the 4 and 4 and 4, the 8 part. Right? So,